Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 235. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is my top 20 action figures of 2022. Now, this has been a long time coming. If you're watching just this video, great. Hopefully this tells you my top 20 figures. This is really all you need to know. But what I did this year, which I haven't done in past years, is I kind of brought you guys in on the process of me whittling down all my purchases this year to my top 20. So I posted a series of 7 videos which led me up to this point. At the end of my 7th video, I had my 20 figures selected. And I really did intend for that to be the last video of the series, and so I would pick my 20 and then I would rank them from number 20 up to number 1. However, the video ran long. I was already at about an hour. So I decided to kind of do my actual ranking of the 20 as a separate video. So yeah, that's what we're going to do here. Now I collect, all kinds of different brands. This past week I've been watching all kinds of great best of videos on YouTube. So thank you to all the content creators out there doing your best Marvel Legends figures, your best Star Wars Black Series figures, best DC Multiverse. I've been watching a bunch of them and I really do enjoy them all. I had to make a lot of tough cuts to get down to this 20 because I started out with, I purchased 365 new action figures this year. So an action figure a day is what that works out to be. And I had to whittle that down to just 20. So I've done that here. And yeah, this covers every toy line that I bought. It would have been a lot easier just to do 10 Marvel Legends and, 10 G.I. Joe Classified and all that sort of stuff. But no, I lumped them all together. So this is everything. So let's jump right in. My first figure, or my number 20 figure, I guess, so the bottom of my list, is Atlas Destroyer. This is from Bandai's Pacific Rim, the Black Bandai Spirits line, I think they call it. So this is a line of about 7-inch figures. They're really well made. Like, I have a bunch of the Jaeger figures from Bandai from the actual Pacific Rim movies, and they're really, really nice. They move a lot better than the Jaeger figures that have been put out by other companies over the years. So yeah, I think Bandai's are the best. So when the Pacific Rim sequel series launched on Netflix, I was really looking forward to getting new Pacific Rim figures because it had been a long time. Unfortunately, this is all we got. Just the Hero Jaeger. We didn't get any other kaiju, and there was even kind of like an evil Jaeger kaiju hybrid that would have been a cool figure and everything, but nope, this is all we get. Hopefully there's more coming, but I haven't heard anything, and this figure's been out for like a year now, so it doesn't look good. But anyway, this figure does look good. He moves really well. He's really cool. He came with a bunch of spare pieces, so you can change out his arm to have, a blue and yellow arm if you like, or you can give him this red kind of spare parts arm that he acquired during the show. He's also got like a whip accessory that attaches to his hand. Just really cool, moves really well, bright colors, a nice kind of vac metal visor on his face. Just makes for a really cool figure. So yeah, that is my number 20. Now my number 19 is Optimus Prime from Super 7 Ultimates Transformers line. And this was a tough call to make because I got 3 of the 4 Ultimates figures that were released by Super 7 this year, and they all disappointed me. When you look at them on the shelf, they all look amazing. They're big, they're blocky, they're bright colors, really, really cool, but they're just not very fun to play with. They don't move very well. Like Optimus Prime, for example, this is as much as his arm bends. Like, you can't have him bend it like that. Really basic articulation. And considering these things don't transform, I don't feel there's any reason why they couldn't have made them better, made them more posable. I think that's kind of the whole point of you got rid of all the kibble and stuff that usually hinders articulation in the main line. So I think Super 7 really dropped the ball on articulation on these guys. But that aside, I don't play with my toys. I put them on a shelf as a display piece. And there's no denying that this is, an impressive display piece. He looks great. He came with a bunch of accessories. Probably too much accessories in my opinion. A lot of them I just put in my spare parts bin, never to be seen again. But you can see here he's got his little buddy, his human pal, Spike Witwicky on his shoulder, which I've just got him there with a little bit of stick tack. He's got a jetpack that's removable, clips on and off really easily. He's got his gun. He came with a surfboard and a basketball. And one of the coolest things I think he came with is an alternate head, which looked like the vintage Optimus Prime toy. And I really didn't know how I was going to display him on my shelf. Ultimately, I decided to go with the animated look. But that original toy head is a really cool add-on and really kind of elevated this figure to have him sneak onto the list. So there you go, Optimus Prime. Now at number 18, this is a figure I got very early on in 2022. And I just was totally smitten with this figure from the early days. And I thought, this figure has got to make my best of the year list. It is She-Spawn from the Spawn toy line from McFarlane Toys. And she had her work cut out for her to stay on this list all year long, because there were so many great figures that I got this year. And as I was going through my final eliminations, I teetered on the idea of getting rid of her. But I don't know, she's so unique in my collection. You know, I'm so used to getting figures with reused parts and all that stuff, and that's okay. That's, you know, part of the game of collecting action figures. But when you get a figure that's all new parts, it's totally new to your collection. It's unlike anything you've got before. And a surprise for me for this character is that I thought I had zero interest in She-Spawn. I remember when the first She-Spawn figure came out in the 90s, and it seemed dumb to me. I wasn't interested. And when I heard they were kind of bringing her back as a mainline character in the comic books, again, I wasn't that interested. It's the character Jessica Priest, and this is a new look for her, and I never really cared much for Priest either. But somehow, McFarlane has revived my interest in the Spawn comic book this year. The comics are really fun, and he's revived my interest in the toys, largely in part because of figures like this. They're just, they're a good size, the sculpting is great, the paint apps are great, the accessories are great. It's just, it's a really sharp figure, and I think this is the best Spawn figure that McFarlane produced this year. Now at number 17, I've got Trigger from Valaverse's Action Force line. And this is another figure that really surprised me because I almost didn't buy this guy this year. I know I'm probably going to sound like, you know, a walking contradiction as I talk about these toys, because I'll say I like bright colors on one figure, then I say I like dark colors on another. Whatever. It's you can't help how you feel about these things. Sometimes it's just a gut reaction when you get a figure. And I've talked before about Valaverse, and I like the more fantastical elements of like G.I. Joe and stuff. I've never been a big military guy. And with Action Force, some of the figures are very real-world military. Like this guy here looks like he could have stepped right out of Afghanistan or something. And, you know, great quality figure. If you're a military collector, you probably definitely want this guy on your shelf. But as me, I'm kind of more of a fun toy collector. I'm not a military collector. So this guy really didn't appeal to me. But ultimately I decided, what the heck. It's still a young brand. Valaverse has only been around since almost just about a year, a little more than that. And I have a complete collection at this point. So I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to continue to be a completist, but up at this point, I might as well get Trigger. And when I did, I just immediately liked him. His sculpting is so great. Even though he does have a lot of reused parts from other figures, just something about the parts they used with the paint job and the accessories. You'll notice I've got this little like earphones on him right now with like a communicator. He's got a really cool machine gun, little pistol, all kinds of extra clips. I love the sculpt with the backwards ball cap and the sunglasses and the beard. He's just a big burly dude, and he's a great figure. And yeah, that's why he made my list. Now at number 16, I've got another McFarlane figure. This is from his DC Multiverse line, and this is Ghostmaker. So this guy here, he's just, he feels like a good quality, big, bulky figure. He's got these big, weird pants on, which is not something you typically see on a superhero, but that really adds to, like, the interesting look of this guy, plus the helmet with the no distinguishable eye holes or mouth holes or anything. Like, it's just it's kind of a creepy alien-like mask. I don't know much about this character. He's a relatively new character introduced in the Batman comic books in the past 2 years or so. And yeah, I was just really excited to see this design. It's just nice to add new characters to your collection every once in a while. You know, like this year I've got some Marvel characters like Sleepwalker and Speedball, which was great because it was the first action figures of characters that I've liked for 20, 30 years. But when it comes to Ghostmaker, that's a whole different level of fun to get an action figure of a character that's brand new. You just read the comic book that you got introduced in, and now you have him in your hand. There's such a novelty to having like a nice, new, fresh action figure. So that's, I think, what put Ghostmaker on the list. It's just his freshness. Now at number 15, I've got the Phantom from NECA. And this is from their I forget the name of the line, comic book superheroes or original superheroes, something along those lines. And this figure had a tough journey to get to my list here because it's a fantastic figure. I love the character of the Phantom. I have multiple Phantom figures in my collection of different scales and stuff. But I really wanted a nice 6-7 inch detailed figure like this here. And last year we got a Defenders of the Earth version of the Phantom, which was him without the shorts, and he's in a kind of a light purple outfit. And it was really, really cool. And it almost made my best of list last year. But I knew that they were going to give us this darker colored Phantom this year, which is my preferred look. So I kept him off the list last year. So I got this figure this year. Seemed like he was going to be a shoo-in. But now it's kind of a repeat of a figure I'd already had in my collection for almost a year then. So he lost some of that freshness. So yeah, I considered actually bumping him off the list. But considering I kept him off the list last year in anticipation of this guy making my list this year, it just didn't seem right to bump him off here. The Phantom really does deserve to be showcased, and it's a great figure. Lots of cool accessories. Really cool stuff. Now, in my number 14 spot, you could argue this is a bit of a cheat, but I don't think it is because they came packaged together. It's sort of two figures. It's from the Four Horsemen Studios Mythic Legions line. This is Ilithia, and her horse Phobos. So I think these guys were available in single packs, so you could buy one or the other. I bought both, so I consider that one piece. Now the thing is, if I buy two action figures in a 2-pack together, I would consider them separate. I wouldn't lump them together. But because the horse is almost more of a vehicle or an accessory, he's not a whole other character, I guess, I consider it all one piece. And how could you not put this on your best of the year list? There's so much going on here. The reason why she's not higher is because she's a little bit too delicate, and I don't like it when I'm scared to handle my toys. I don't want things to fall off of them and break. But she's so intricate. There's so much going on. There's so much cool detail. The horse is amazing. You know, it's just a big, impressive figure. Yeah, I love it. So there you go. Ilithia and Phobos at number 14. Now, number 13, arguably a bit of a cheat as well, but really it's just Blaster that's on here. Now, he also came with his little buddy Eject, which transforms into a little cassette tape that fits into his chest when he turns into a Ghetto Blaster. And yeah, it's cool. It's a fun little thing, but this definitely doesn't really enhance the figure. He was not, Blaster didn't need him to get onto the list anyway. But this Blaster, it's great. My transforming collecting, I feel is winding down because my goal when I started collecting Transformers as an adult was to get nice new versions of all of the G1 characters, and I think I pretty much have them all now. When they put out a really big improvement on a character, then I'll probably buy it again and replace the one in my collection. I can't imagine anybody replacing this Blaster. He looks exactly how I would want him to look. He's the right size. Usually I want my new Transformers to match up with the scale of the vintage Transformers, but Blaster was always a bit too big. Like, he was bigger than Optimus Prime and everything. That never really seemed right with me. And I could understand if he was supposed to transform into a stereo system that was believable that you could carry on your shoulder, but he wasn't. He was still too small to be a real stereo, and I don't know. This is a much better size for Blaster. He's still a bigger character, but he's not so big that it's ridiculous. The detail's great. He poses fantastic. There's like no kibble on this guy whatsoever. You might think he doesn't even transform because there's just no extra parts on him. He's an amazing figure, and I wish all Transformers came out this good. In my number 12 spot, I've got Hasbro's The Lizard from their Marvel Legends Spider-Man Retro line. So that means this guy came on a retro style blister card. He's supposed to be inspired by like the 90s animated Spider-Man cartoon. And he's great. Lizard is one of my favorite Spidey villains, and we did get a Lizard Build-A-Figure a couple of years ago, but it was more of a contemporary take on him. He had like a dinosaur head, he was big and hulking, and it was a cool figure, but it wasn't the Lizard that I know from the comic books I grew up on and the cartoons. And this guy is just fantastic. He's got multiple head sculpts, he's got multiple accessories, he's got a posable tail. I love the soft rubber, like lab coat. It doesn't really hinder his articulation in any way. He's just a great looking figure. Really like it. Now in my number 11 spot, This one is kind of a surprise, and yet not really. This is Black Suit Spider-Man, again from Hasbro's Marvel Legend line, also from the Spider-Man Retro card series. The reason why it's kind of a surprise is because it's just another Spider-Man. It's simple. He doesn't have much in the way of accessories. You'd think you must have a dozen Spider-Man in your collection. I probably have multiple dozen Spider-Mans in my collection at this point. But like the red and blue Spider-Man I got in 2020, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. And when you get an action figure that is just perfect, I've had multiple black and white Spider-Mans before, but the proportions were off, or the eyes were too big, he was too skinny, something weird, he was overly articulated, which made him gangly. This one is perfect. Like the musculature, the size of the eyes, the posability. Like this looks like Spider-Man right out of the Kraven's Last Hunt era. It's just a perfect figure. And so how can I not, tip my hat to Hasbro when they just nail my favorite superhero. So yeah, great job, Hasbro. Okay, so we're into my top 10. At number 10, I've got Tomax from Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified line. Now, Tomax, you might be wondering, well, is Xamot the next figure on your list? Because Tomax and Xamot are twins, and when I was a kid, they came packaged together. They're basically identical figures, except they're just the mirror image of one another. So one guy's sash goes this way, the other guy's sash goes the other way. This guy has a shoulder pad on just one shoulder, the other guy has the shoulder pad on the other shoulder. So the only thing that's different is Xamot has a scar on his face. Tomax doesn't. Now, I'll tell you right now, Xamot is not on my list. And Tomax is. Why is that? Well, because when I was a kid, me and my brother split this set. I had Tomax, he had Xamot. So in my mind, Tomax has always been my guy, and Xamot his. So objectively, they're both excellent figures. They're basically the same. If he's going to make my list, they probably should both be on there. And if anything, Xamot has the scar, so he's maybe the more interesting figure to look at. But because of my personal attachment to Tomax, that's why he's on my spot all by himself. And I think they just nailed it. As much as I loved my vintage figure, the face was kind of simple and the hair was really simple. He almost looked like a Lego man, the way his little side part worked and everything. When I look at this figure, he looks like a real guy. Like they look like they molded it after a real person or something. And it's really neat to see a character I've always liked this much to actually get it infused with some new personality or something. It's a really great figure. It's very true to the vintage figure. I think, again, Hasbro just nailed it. Now in my number 9 spot, really cool figure. I can imagine some people might put this figure much higher on their lists because he really is impressive. This is from Super 7's Thundercats Ultimates line. This is Mumra. Now, Mumra, you can see he's really big compared to, say, Spider-Man, who's 6 inches. Mumra is probably closer to 9 inches. He's a really big figure. And, he's got soft goods cape. He has 2 head sculpts. He had multiple accessories, including his dog, Mamut, which is a good-sized figure in and of itself. Really well sculpted, paintwork, articulated. So you get these two guys together, and it's just a lot of bang for your buck. I was really impressed with this figure. The reason why it isn't up higher for me is there is a little bit of quality control issues, which is not surprising with Super 7. For example, his hands are really loose. I find they fall off. He doesn't hold on to his weapons very well. Some of his other joints are a little loose, so he doesn't stand so good on his own. But all that aside, the sheer awesomeness of him just trumps the issues. So that's why he made it pretty high on my list, I would say. So there you go, Mumra and Mamut. Now I've got another Super 7 Ultimates figure in my next slot. So this is, 8, I think? So at number 8, I've got Ray Filet from their Ninja Turtle Ultimates line. Now, he is just a great-looking figure. He's bright. He's colorful. He also came with a little sidekick, which is another articulated character named Fish Sticks. So, when you get multiple characters in one package, you really feel, again, bang for your buck. But this guy is just a big, bulky figure. I've got him holding this cool rope accessory, but he came with a bunch of other stuff, a gun. He actually came with another little buddy, a little starfish guy, but he's too small for me to really hold up and show you. He came with an alternate head sculpt, so you've got kind of his happy look, and then you've got his angry, open mouth look. It's a really great figure. Yeah, what more is there to say? A Super 7 Ninja Turtle Ultimate figure topped my list last year with Mutagen Man. And Filet got pretty high this year. It's still another great figure. So yeah, keep it up, Super 7. And in my number 7 spot, I have another Ninja Turtle, but this one is from Playmates. This is Playmates' last Ronin black and white sketch variant. So you could get this figure fully painted. And I saw that figure at my local comic shop, and it didn't really appeal to me. But when I saw this one, who's all black and white, he's supposed to look like the line art of, a comic book before it gets inked and colored and everything. And it's just, it looks awesome. It's really appealing. I like that it's kind of small and fits in with the Playmates toys that you had when you were a kid. At least that I had when I was a kid. He's got loads of accessories. It's just, he moves well. He looks great. I don't know. I love it. So there you go. Last Ronin at number 7. In my number 6 spot, I've got another G.I. Joe classified figure. This is Spirit Iron Knife and his Eagle Freedom. Now, they just really nailed it with this one here. I think that the classified line is pretty much perfect. There's not too many figures in there that disappoint me, if any. It was really tough cutting figures like the Crimson Guard and the Alley Viper and the Bat from my list. But there was just so many good figures. And don't worry, G.I. Joe is not done being represented yet. So here's Spirit. This was a character, I don't know, I didn't really care for him that much as a kid, but he's really grown on me over time. And this is the best he's ever looked. Like, it's true to the vintage figure, but still updated enough to make him cool and contemporary. And what's even better is the Eagle. In the vintage line, Freedom was just a solid piece of plastic that couldn't move. This one here, he's got articulated head, he's got articulated legs and feet, and his wings are articulated, and you can swap out his kind of wings at his side for big spread wings so you can make him fly. You can perch him on Spirit's backpack, which was never something you could do before, and he also clips onto Spirit's wrist. So just a really great figure. And again, you get an extra little character. That's kind of a trend I've got going on here, I think, is little sidekicks in the package really seem to appeal to me. So Spirit is awesome. So in my number 5, my number 5 spot, I have another Super 7 Ultimates figure. This here is Warpaint Conan the Barbarian. And this was another figure I got very early in the year. I loved it, and I wasn't sure if he was going to hold on to his spot all year long. But my love for this figure has not waned. I think he's great. And I have some complaints about him. This is, I think, my 4th Ultimate Conan figure, and like his sword is really big. His scabbard, it seems really oversized. The articulation is dated. He doesn't have any double jointed elbows or knees or something. He's still built on the same buck as the Masters of the Universe Classics figures from 2009. But all that aside, it looks really good. And this is the first time I think they really nailed the look of of Arnold Schwarzenegger's face. The other figures didn't quite live up to it. But here he looks great, and the war paint version is my favorite version of Conan from the live action movies. So I'm glad that this is the one that they finally nailed it. They probably should have nailed it on the first one. But anyway, really solid figure. Really love it. So there you go. Conan at number 5. Now my number 4 figure is another... He's got a sidekick again. This is another figure from the Four Horsemen Studios. Not really part of their Mythic Legions line. This was a limited release holiday figure. They've done that a couple of times where they put out a figure at Christmas time. Last year I got a Krampus. This year they put out Santa Claus. And for Halloween this year they gave us the Headless Horseman with his horse. And it is really impressive. Now, if you think it looks familiar, it's because, it's the same company that gave us the Ilithia. So the horse is basically the same. They do have different head sculpts, and I think they do have some different tackle on the horse itself. But again, it's a fully articulated horse. I really like the way they painted his hooves. They're kind of reddish. They look like they're hot, like he just ran out of hell or something. He's got kind of an angry horse face. It's cool. But the horseman himself is the star of the show. You can display him multiple ways. He's got this jack-o'-lantern for a head. He also has a flaming jack-o'-lantern. And he also has a little bloody stump that you can put on there. And then you can hold the jack-o'-lantern in his hand. His cape is wired, so you can pose it and it will retain its shape, which is really cool. He sits on the horse really well, yet he displays on his own really well. I don't know what else to say. It's an awesome figure. I bet this will be on some people's like number one spot on a lot of lists. It came close. When I got it, I thought this could very well be my toy of the year. But then I did get a couple of other really awesome figures this year. So unfortunately, the Horseman will have to settle for the number 4 spot. Now in my number 3 spot, I have another G.I. Joe and another G.I. Joe with a sidekick. So this is Croc Master from Hasbro and his crocodile, Fiona. Now in the vintage G.I. Joe line, Croc Master came with a crocodile. I don't think it had a name at the time, but it was just a solid piece of plastic, just like Freedom the Eagle. It wasn't a very big crocodile. It wasn't even as big as Croc Master. So, you'd think, okay, that crocodile would be realistically maybe about a 5 or 6 foot croc at best. Anyway, this Croc Master, we got a brand new Fiona, and it is huge. So you can see this would be about a 12-foot croc. Much more impressive and much scarier. So when Croc Master goes into battle with this thing at his side, you can imagine the G.I. Joes would actually fear this thing instead of the old one. And this one actually has a mouth that can open. So again, much more menacing. It's fully articulated. The tail is wired. And then he's got joints at all of his legs, all of his feet, multiple joints throughout the body. His mouth opens. And inside of his mouth, I don't know if you can see, there's a couple little baby crocodiles too, which is fantastic. So he technically has 3 crocodiles in one set. And then the Croc Master is just deadly looking. I love that he's got the whip, but my favorite accessory is this big like meat hook he's got that looks like something straight out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The sculpt on this guy is great. The texturing on his like crocodile skin vest, I just absolutely love it. And as soon as I got this guy, I was like, I knew he was going to be on my best of list, no question. I thought he might have even topped it. But again, a couple other great figures showed up late in the year. So let's take a look at my number 2. Now my number 2 figure is arguably a cheat as well, because it is a figure, a pet sidekick, and a vehicle all in one. But it all came together in one set. And this is Serpentor from Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified line. And you see there he's got his chariot, which is fully loaded. Its mouth opens, its fangs come down. It's got little guns that rotate and everything. It's super cool. He also has his little Cobra sidekick, which unfortunately isn't posable. But compared to the vintage one he came with, which was just a solid color little plastic snake, this one here is much more impressive, and it's got multiple paint apps. So that's a very cool little add-in to the pack. But the star of the show is Serpentor himself. He's got alternate heads, a bunch of different weapons, including a sword and a staff. And he's got these kind of Wolverine claws that strap onto his arm here. He's got a cloth cape with a cool like snakeskin texture on it. He's just amazing. Like, if you own this figure, there's no way it couldn't be on your best of the year list. Maybe it wouldn't top it, but it's got to be on there somewhere. It's just a really impressive figure, a really impressive set from Hasbro. So nice job. Now the figure that I put in my number 1 spot shouldn't surprise you if you know me at all, if you've watched my series of videos. But if this is your first time watching one of my videos, you might be shocked that I put this figure ahead of Serpentor and the Headless Horseman and Mumra and all these other figures. But this is another G.I. Joe Classified figure, and this is Zarana. And Zarana is my favorite G.I. Joe character. I've always loved this character. The vintage toy, the modern toy, the how she was portrayed in the comic books and the cartoons and everything. I just always loved this character. And none of the figures ever really lived up to her potential, I don't think. I always liked her better, how I envisioned her, than how she actually looked in plastic. When I had an opportunity to meet Larry Hama, the creator of the G.I. Joe comic book and the guy who wrote all the file cards and gave all these characters their personality, I met him at a comic show a couple years back. I had him do me an original sketch of Zarana, which is one of my prized possessions now. And when I heard they announced that they were going to do Zarana this year, I was really hoping that they didn't screw her up, and I think they really nailed it. She looks exactly how I would want her to look, very true to the vintage figure. They went the extra mile though and gave her swappable hair, so you can actually give her a haircut that matches the card art. But then they also gave her this newer, kind of a little bit more punk rock contemporary haircut, which I prefer. But I actually bought this figure twice so I can display it with both haircuts. So here are both my Zaranas. They're both awesome. If if they repaint this figure, I'll buy it again. I love it. I can't imagine what they could have done to really do anything more to it. I like her gun, which is an homage to the vintage gun that had like a spinning blade on the end, but now it's got the blade, but it also has like it works as like a regular gun as well. She's got a knife that's sheathed on her side there. It's just it's great. I love it. I love the punk rock aesthetic. So yeah, super pleased with this figure. And as soon as it was announced, and as soon as I saw the images, I thought they would have had to screw it up pretty bad for it not to like make my list. But when I saw the images online and then I got it in hand, it was kind of a foregone conclusion. Even with Serpentor and the Headless Horseman and stuff, it's just my personal love of this character was going to bump her to the top. So thank you, Hasbro, for creating an excellent Zarana figure. And there we go. That is my top 20 of 2022. So sorry that was such a long road to get here if you watched my 7 prior Illumination videos. But if you did watch all those, I hope you enjoyed going on this journey with me. And now with my next video, we can start on our figures of 2023. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. Ciao.